Make way.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the singing of the first verse of the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. The President of the University.
Good morning. Mr. Rector, members of the Board of Visitors, graduating students, colleagues, family, and friends, as I said yesterday, welcome to the hottest show in town. Today marks the end of the 193rd academic session. It also marks the first time in 3 years that we have been able to gather on the lawn for this occasion. These final exercises are the university's most joyful occasion. This year made all the more so given the sacrifices and challenges that you've endured over the last 2.5 years. Today, we are here to confer degrees on the candidates from 11 of the university's schools, as we did yesterday for the College and Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. I'd like to begin by recognizing members of our leadership team who will either be leaving us or taking on new roles at UVA. Liz McGill, our provost, Alex Hernandez, the dean of the School of Continuing and Professional Studies, Bob Pianta, the dean of the School of Education and Human Development, and Pam Cipriano, the dean of the School of Nursing. Each of these leaders has shaped this university in profound ways, and I am grateful to them for their service. I'd also like to acknowledge some of our student athletes who can't be with us. Members of the women's golf team, the women and men's tennis teams, and the men's lacrosse teams are on the road today. And for those who are competing, including the men's tennis team, which is competing for a national championship today, we wish them the best of luck. Go Hoos! Our music today is provided by the U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command Band from Fort Eustis, Virginia, under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Treg Onselet. Please join me in a round of applause for them, as well as for the members of the Army, Navy, and Air Force ROTC who presented the colors. I'd like to take a moment to congratulate and to thank all of the parents, grandparents, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, family and friends in the audience today. Together, you have supported our students, your students, in countless ways, including financially, emotionally, and gastronomically. You have helped pay tuition, you have offered encouragement, and you have fed them when they're home for break. As a parent of college-age kids myself, I know that this has not been the easiest of 4 years for anyone, including all of you. Today is your day too, which is why I would like to ask all of our graduating students to stand, turn toward the audience, and give a round of applause to those who helped you on this journey. I would also like to offer a huge thanks to our incredible staff who work hard all year and then work even harder to make our grounds look especially beautiful for this weekend and to make this ceremony special for all of you. Particular thanks are due to Pam Higgins, who is retiring after more than 4 decades of service to UVA and who during that time has orchestrated 44, yes, 44 final exercise ceremonies. And I'd like to thank our outstanding faculty who have served not simply as teachers and colleagues, but also as mentors and friends. And I'd like you to please join me in giving one more round of applause, both for our faculty and our staff. Finally, congratulations to the class of 2022. I hope and trust that you will look back on your time here as among the most important, enjoyable, engaging, and life-changing experiences of your lives. You are leaving this community stronger than you found it, and I have no doubt that you will make the world beyond UVA a better place. On a personal note, a number of you began your time here in 2018, which is also when I started as president. Let me express my admiration and a little bit of envy, because while all of you are graduating today, I'm being held back for at least another year. More seriously, please know that this class will always have a special place in my heart. We have been through much together. It has been a true joy and a sincere privilege to get to know many of you and to serve as your president. And now let us begin this ancient and honorable ritual through which we shall recognize and welcome you into the company of superbly educated citizen leaders.
The Rector of the University.
Good morning. What a glorious day to celebrate your graduation. As rector of the university, and like many of you, a double wahoo, and on behalf of my colleagues of the Board of Visitors, we congratulate you as 2022 graduates. We honor each of you for your many accomplishments. You have built a solid foundation at UVA in your graduate programs, and I believe they will support you for the rest of your lives. We recognize that your journey to this moment has been very different, and in many cases very difficult, much more so than your preceding graduation classes. We've all had to deal with the pandemic and its impact on our lives. For you, Zoom classes, masks, testing, and your abbreviated on-grounds experience. But nevertheless, there's much to be grateful for and much to celebrate. Your family and your friends who have supported you along the way, the faculty who have taught you, and the staff people who have helped make your success easier to attain. And this year, I would like to thank especially the medical staff at Student Health and in the Medical Center on your behalf. They also deserve your and our gratitude. And finally, we are grateful for you and your contributions to this place. Contributions as graduate students that have helped maintain and further the national prominence of our graduate schools. And we wish each of you a life of meaningful accomplishments and strong and resilient relationships. UVA does strive to be a great and a good university. And we hope you will strive to be both great and good in whatever you choose. Good connotes serving others. And there's so many ways to do that in your professional, vocational, and personal pursuits. We hope you will find a path of service in some form, because I believe that that's where happiness lies, in making a positive difference in the communities and in the world around you. Your UVA education has helped pave the way. In closing, I'd like to quote the words of a former editor of the student newspaper, Corks and Curls, 99 years ago. His words remain true to this day. He finished an eloquent piece in that yearbook by writing, "I have won the honor of honors. I have graduated from the University of Virginia." So again, congratulations and best wishes. Now, my main duty today is to introduce our keynote speaker, and I am most honored to do so. Our speaker is an assistant professor in the Department of Medicine in the divisions of Pulmonary and Critical Care Medicine and Infectious Diseases and in International Health. Born in Boston but raised in Lynchburg, Virginia, Tyson Bell took his undergraduate degree here in the college in African American and African Studies, and his medical degree from Columbia University. He trained in internal medicine at Massachusetts General Hospital and served as chief resident. Following his residency, he completed a fellowship in infectious diseases in a joint program of Mass General and Brigham and Women's Hospital, and a critical care fellowship at the National Institutes of Health. In all of his spare time, he completed an executive MBA program at the Darden School. You may have seen Dr. Bell interviewed on the news during the pandemic. He's a nationally recognized expert in infectious diseases, but he's also known for his leadership in the areas of health disparities. He's a passionate clinician and educator and directs the UVA Summer Medical Leadership Program, a med school preparatory program for underrepresented and disadvantaged students. Dr. Bell has received many honors and accolades. One of the most recent is recognition as one of the top 40, under 40 leaders in minority health by the National Minority Quality Forum. Dr. Bell, we're thrilled to have you, and we look forward to hearing from you. Dr. Bell.
Wow, what a day. President Ryan, Rector Clement, Board of Visitors, Provosts, EVPs, Deans, faculty and staff, family and friends, and especially the class of 2022. I am so honored to be with you all today in a city and a university that means so much to me. And I'm especially happy to speak on this day. If you don't mind, let's just do a quick roll call. We need to know what's in the house here, all right? Feel free to make some noise at the end. We've got doctors, nurses, lawyers, architects, engineers, educators, data scientists, public policy, business, times two. Those launching second careers, headed into healthcare or public safety. Let's hear it. President Ryan, I'd like to submit a motion to call this the Skills Day portion of commencement. Don't get me wrong, everyone is special, but you all are the ones who can actually, do stuff. I can say that. I graduated from the college. I sat where you are on this day 17 years ago. It was a beautiful day, but it was hot, just like today. So I know I need to keep this short, but it was also a complicated day. Yes, my edits have all been shortening, but it was a complicated day. I was sitting beside Kristen Scott. We met move-in day on first year. She lived in the floor above me. For 4 years, we had a platonic, simple friendship. We were both stuck in the friend zone, and we were happy about it. But between finals ending, we find ourselves with empty days and minds full of thoughts. We confessed that we actually had deeper feelings for each other. So 17 years ago today, we were just trying to figure out what to do about all this. And it's funny how so much can change and even some things remain the same. Today, much like before, we're at commencement. We moved into a building a few years ago, and we find ourselves with these weird roommates who can't seem to pick up after themselves. The only difference is now our roommates call us mommy and daddy. I emailed Residence Life about it, but you know them, they said it was off grounds, not their jurisdiction. But let's not focus on roommate issues, that's not why we're here. I want to deliver a good message today, but I'm also a clinical educator. And like any good UVA faculty member, I take my job seriously. So let's have one more class before you go. ICU Physiology 101. The med students know, I promise it's the last science lesson you'll receive before you leave here, and I already cleared this as tuition free. All right, so first, I'll tell you the purpose of the course. We'll talk about the core concepts, which are flow and teamwork. We'll come back to that as our home base, and then we'll conclude. Sound good? All right, let's go. So first, why this course? Part of the mission of UVA is to serve the Commonwealth, the nation, and the world by developing responsible citizen leaders and professionals. It's ambitious, but it's fundamentally simple. You take the best and brightest, you make them even better, even brighter, and you send them into the world to make it a better place. But you and I both know that life isn't simple, and neither is making the world a better place. So let's talk a little more about that. I'm a physician, so my part of the world is in healthcare, which on the surface also seems complex. The human body has around 600 muscles, 206 bones, and its blood vessels, if you arrange them in a straight line, will circle the earth 2.5 times. We have hundreds of procedures at our disposal and over 1,000 medications that we use to nudge the body towards a closer state of health. But on a basic level, what we do is simple. We maintain flow for our patients. It could be the flow of air, to the lungs, or the flow of blood to organs to deliver oxygen, the flow of bile from your gallbladder. Flow is what we manage in the hospital. When flow suddenly stops, it can be a dire emergency. If the heart stops, we call that a code blue, and we have to work quickly to try to reestablish flow. In a code, the first few minutes are crucial, and there's a lot you have to do. You can easily have up to 30 people converge in one place at one time. You have folks lined up to give chest compressions, putting pads on the chest so you can deliver a shot, placing IVs, drawing up meds, delivering medications, and keeping track of time. Now imagine all of this happening in a 130 square foot room, 10 by 13. It is utter chaos. But there's something interesting about watching these teams in action. No matter your background, I bet if I took any one of you today with me to watch these code teams, you could distinguish a high-functioning team from one that wasn't. In a high-functioning team, the chaos eventually dies down. People fall into their roles and they help each other. Communication is seamless. People don't have to shout over each other. The team itself flows. And just like in the rooms where I'm called to serve, in your life, you have to achieve flow. You have to make progress. And the world has to make progress. And more often than not, that progress needs to happen in an environment full of chaos. So how does flow happen? Well, it turns out it works in life the same as it works in physiology. We're going to move to the core concepts portion of the course now. So mathematically, the flow between 2 points is equal to the pressure difference between those 2 points and inversely proportional to the resistance between those 2 points. Look, y'all, I know some of y'all were out late last night. This is a lot to take in right now. So I'm going to break it down. I'm going to use a teaching aid. All right. This tube that you see was made by Melissa Goldman in the A School Fabrication Lab, or the Fab Lab. I'm going to tell you a story later, but for now, imagine the tube as a conduit for something, a blood vessel, a straw, or really anything through which something needs to move from one place to the other. It's a journey, and that journey can be as simple as air moving from one end to the other, or as complicated as working towards your life goals or impacting your community. Now that journey or flow depends on 2 variables. First is pressure. That's directly proportional. That means a higher pressure on one side means that flow will move quicker or easier to the other side. Hopefully that makes sense. Second is resistance. Resistance is indirectly proportional. When it's high, it's harder to make that progress. So imagine there's a blockage in the tube, or you imagine the circumference was smaller, a narrow tube, higher resistance. So higher resistance, less flow. All right, make sense? All right. Let's talk about pressure first. Most of us tend to perform a little better when we're under a little pressure. And that's what I told myself before I stepped up here today. Now, I know that there are some of you out there who are the kinds of folks who never procrastinate. You always complete your assignments ahead of time. You're never up late against the deadline. Just know if that's you, we see you, we smile at you, we secretly resent you. I'm sorry for that aside, it had to be said. Let's get back on track. Now, I grew up in Lynchburg, just a short distance away, but in a neighborhood that may as well have been worlds apart from UVA. During the school year, I lived with my great-grandmother, and I visited my parents in the summer in Dorchester, Mass. And in 3rd grade, my teacher, Miss Pugh, realized that I needed more pressure. She pulled the class on topics that we wanted to learn about, and like a typical 3rd grader, I wanted things like dinosaurs in outer space, but someone already wrote that. So I decided to write something different. I wrote Shakespeare, and I'm pretty sure I wrote it like shake a spear. I was only 1 letter off with that, by the way. I remember hearing his name in a candy bar commercial, and I looked him up, and I saw that he wrote these things called sonnets. So when Miss Pugh asked why I wanted to learn about Shakespeare, I told her, well, I was thinking maybe we could read some of his sonnets in class. Now, actually, someone's laughing. I had no desire to do that back then. I continue to have no desire to do that now. But soon after, Ms. Pugh recommended that I apply to the GO Center, the city's elementary magnet program. It served the entire district, 4th and 5th grade. I was only one of 2 black boys there. And I had a new set of classmates, but I recognized their last names because they were the same last names as the doctors, lawyers, owners, business owners, and politicians in town. So I started taking accelerated classes, working with students for whom college was assumed rather than for me, which was a dream. Now, I wish I could tell you that was it, but by the 11th grade, I was not on the right path and my performance was poor. My civics teacher, Ms. Frazier, pulled me aside and turned up the pressure. She told me I needed to get my act together, and from then on, I was going to take advanced courses and make all A's in them. And that's actually what I did because she didn't present this as if it was optional for me. The next year, she encouraged me to apply to UVA, and I was accepted with the help of her letter of recommendation and some late-breaking all-A report cards. So pressure definitely benefited me. And what's interesting about this concept is that pressure per performance is also true in human physiology as well. For example, if a patient is placed on a ventilator, we have to apply a minimal level of pressure to the lungs in order to keep them open to prevent them from collapsing. When the lungs are open, they can gather oxygen for the rest of the body. Likewise, Ms. Pugh and Ms. Frazier opened up my future, and I was able to succeed in an environment that often suffocated potential. So the lesson is, if you want flow, if you want to make a difference, you sometimes need a little pressure to unlock your potential. But it's not that simple, because increasing pressure is not always a good thing. In the ICU, we know that if the lungs receive too much pressure, we can actually cause damage. During my third year here, I had a moment where I felt the pressure was building too much. I was pre-med, I was a chemistry major, and I was studying for the MCAT, that's the med school prep exam. And I wasn't doing well in my biochemistry course, and I went to see my professor to talk about withdrawing. And he sat me down, and he told me, look, I'm gonna sign this withdrawal form for you, and you can do whatever you want with it, but I believe in you, and I know you can do this. I hope you throw it away. And I have to tell you, it was a good pep talk. I was inspired. I was inspired to walk even quicker to the registrar's office and withdraw from that course. It's too much pressure, I didn't need that. So I eventually dropped the chem major altogether and chose African American and African Studies. I departed from the script, as Dr. Claudrina Harold so eloquently described yesterday. I even took a class with her, and I found a journey that for me was much more fulfilling. Avoiding pressure overload is vital to success, but there's something that we need to talk about. Many of you are the first generation to have grown up with social media where a curated version of someone's life can be presented as if it's reality. We forget that when a light is shined on someone, there's always a shadow that's cast behind. As a result, there's this increasing amount of pressure to be perfect in everything that we do, and when you feel like you don't measure up, it's hard to realize your value. We've seen too often the consequences this has had on mental health and well-being. The lungs can literally burst if they have too much pressure. The air escapes from the inside, it collects on the outside, and it compresses the lung. It's an emergency. When it happens, we actually have to stick a needle or a tube into the chest to suck that air out. We have to decrease that pressure. So the lesson is, if you want to have sustained flow, don't let the pressure get to the breaking point. Give yourself some grace. Ease up and rest when you need to. You will fail from time to time, but progress is the goal, not perfection. And most importantly, if you need help, seek it out before it becomes a crisis. All right, that's pressure. So let's talk about the second variable, resistance. Remember, high resistance impedes flow, lower resistance makes it easy, but as you can imagine, it's not that simple. A common procedure in the ICU is an intubation where you place a breathing tube into the patient's throat. Right after the tube goes in, you connect it to a bag that you squeeze with your hand to pump air into the lungs. We're taught that if the squeeze is too easy, you could have an air leak in the system because the lungs are elastic. They naturally resist expansion. So in other words, if you feel no resistance, you can have great flow. You can squeeze all day, but you're delivering air back into the room instead of into the patient. And in life, you need to feel some resistance. Sure, it makes problems harder to solve, it makes them more complex, but it's also what makes them worthy of being solved. The lesson is, you can have flow if things are easy, but if you want to do good in the world and have meaningful flow, expect to meet some resistance along the way. There was one time I intubated a patient and the opposite happened. It was incredibly hard to squeeze the bag, and so I put two hands on the bag and started to squeeze, But then after a couple of minutes, my hand started to cramp up and I couldn't squeeze anymore. So I had to pass it off to a colleague, and we alternated like that until we solved the problem. So how do you overcome these high resistance issues? Well, there are two main forms of resistance. The first is from your personal and professional challenges, and this is where mentorship comes in. It's vital. Mentors give you good advice, and they try to lower the hurdles that you face. During my second year of medical school, I had this big test coming up, and I locked down the study, even told my family and friends I wasn't going to call, I needed to study. And the test actually went well. But when I called my grandma afterwards, I could tell that something was wrong. She had been skipping meals and didn't tell me because she wanted me to focus on the test. Like many other first-generation students, I had to work to support my household in high school and continue that in college. Winter was always the toughest time because the energy bills went up. The problem was I couldn't work in medical school, and that winter, energy prices rose 10% from the year prior. This broke my grandma's finances, and she was not the kind of person who asked for help, so she had the choice to be cold or hungry. She chose the latter. Now, I wasn't comfortable talking about this with my classmates, but they noticed that I was down and I had stopped engaging. Someone told my dean of diversity, Dr. Hilda Hutcherson, and she called me to her office and I broke down. I told her I didn't know if I could continue on, I just wanted to go back home. I was up against the structural forces that resist the progress for so many first-generation students, and I was near ready to tap out. Right there on the spot, she wrote me a check for $1,000 for me to send back home. And now, not only do you know how incredible this woman is, but I've confessed to thousands of people that I owe my med school diversity dean $1,000. I hope she's not charging interest. The second kind of resistance takes the form of the barriers to solving society's critical problems, like racial injustice, health disparities, climate change, decreasing economic mobility, and the growing influence of disinformation. And when I think about these high resistance problems, I think about the heroes I studied in the classrooms behind me. People like the folks my children are named after, Professor Julian Bond, Dr. Elaine Locke, and Ruby Bridges. A few days ago, I watched a commencement address by John Lewis where he told the story of the freedom rides through the Deep South, how they were beaten on the bridge in Selma on Bloody Sunday in March of 1965. He described these acts of civil disobedience as good trouble. And what he meant by that is sometimes when the resistance is so high, you have no choice but to act and dial up the pressure. And I like his example because the math actually checks out. When you have fixed high resistance, in order to achieve flow, you have to increase the pressure until you can ease those systemic barriers. In this case, they protested, pressure up, and they got the Voting Rights Act passed, resistance down. And there are several examples of that here. When it comes to COVID, we have two physicians in the community, Dr. Ebony Hilton, who when you see her on TV, she's dialing up the pressure. Dr. Cameron Webb, one of my colleagues and friends, he's in the White House on faculty here. He's working to decrease resistance, to implement programs that make a difference when it comes to COVID equity. But here's the thing, you can't keep this up on your own. You need people to pass the bag to, like I did in the ICU. And you need folks to help bring down that resistance. And when my heroes recall their experiences, they're quick to point out the people that were there with them. There's power in working with others. We can become so siloed in our careers and personal lives that sometimes the resistance to progress is actually the lack of collaboration itself. Now, I saw the power of collaboration early in the pandemic. We were low on PPE, that's personal protective equipment. Jessica Denemy, one of our nurses, sent an email to Will Guilford in the E-School she asked about 3D printers and other ideas to help solve the problem. And an initiative informed that included folks from the hospital, the E-School, the A-School, and the Ed School. We needed help with logistics, so I pulled in my Darden classmates, Tiffany Pilifon and Andrew Harris, along with Rebecca Steele, a nurse in the community. All told, we produced masks, face shields, nasopharyngeal swabs, and other items that went into our local community and throughout the Commonwealth. And remember, this was before we had treatment, before we had vaccines. PPE and testing was it. That was what we had. The tube I showed you earlier is signed by several faculty and students from the project. They're from the very schools that are here today. And I have no doubt that there are people in our community, in our Commonwealth, who are alive today because of what happened here. That's the power of collaboration and diversity. When people with different skill sets and points of view come together, the unimaginable can happen. And the magic about this day is you all get to go out into the world and join the UVA family as alumni. For only a part of UVA's power exists right here. Most of it comes from the network, from those who sat before you and are changing the world out there. The lesson is, when you're tackling high resistance problems, you need others on the journey with you. They can help you sustain the pressure to overcome resistance, or they can help knock down those resistance to flow. So there it is. Flow depends on pressure and resistance. Simple, right? Well, I hope you picked up on the theme. It's not so simple. Because there will be times when you feel like you should have flow, but you're still stuck. There's one day I was only 6 years old and it snowed. How good would that be if it snowed? I was 6 and the older kids came over to help the sled in my backyard, and I was trying to keep up and climb up this hill on my own, but each time I slid back down. I just couldn't do it. I was so frustrated. I sat down in tears at the bottom of the hill. Grandma called me inside, and I must have looked a mess. I had that thing where the tears were mixed with the snot from my nose, and it was kind of congealing to this frozen goo in my face. She sat me down and cleaned me up, gave me some hot chocolate. She had noticed that each time I tried to go up the hill, I was so focused on the top, I wasn't actually looking down to see where my steps were going. She said I could stay in if I wanted to, but if I went back out, I should focus on where to take my first step, then the next step, then the next step. I went back out and tried again, this time recalling the many times I climbed that hill in fair weather, remembering where some of the rocks and the divots and the roots were, where I could get a foothold. And I didn't make it up on that first try, but I kept trying, and I finally made it to the top. I want to close by asking you one question. What did Grandma change for me on that hill to achieve flow? She didn't add pressure. She told me I could stop and stay inside if I wanted to. She made it my choice. What about resistance? Did she make the challenge any easier? No. Same hill, same gravity. There's a variable in this math that I haven't accounted for. So what's that? Well, I think it was the power of belief. Her belief in me made me believe in myself. I had a new strategy, but belief gave me the confidence to try again. And reflecting back, what was it that made John Lewis get up after he was knocked down in Selma? What was it that made Miss Pugh, Miss Frazier, and Dr. Hutcherson take that extra effort to help me stay on my path? What was it that kept students and faculty up all hours of the night to help a community that was in need? It was belief. Belief in the cause for justice, belief in your ability to change the life of a student, belief that your skills can have an impact. That's the difference. Mr. Sampson talked about the power of a positive attitude on Friday. Belief in yourself translates to your attitude, your effort, and your will. You may have to try again. You may have to try in a different way. The goal may change, but belief will make you try. It's what makes you take those next steps. It is unmeasurable. The biggest mistake I made early in my journey was I thought I had to shoulder my burdens alone. And when I stumbled, I didn't let the belief others had in me reinforce belief in myself. And despite my accomplishment 17 years ago, when I sat where you were, I did not fully believe in myself. I felt purely lucky to be here rather than both lucky and worthy. If that sounds like you, promise me something today. You don't have to remember anything else I've said, but promise me this. Work on believing in yourself today, right here, right now. Because today, you finish this stage of your journey in the academical village. No matter your circumstance, you've worked hard to make it here. You've had to climb. You've overcome challenges. You did this during a pandemic, y'all. Now it's time to use your talent to do some good in the world. I'm going to put a little pressure on you to unlock your potential, but not too much. Take care of yourself. I urge you to tackle the problems that are worthy, the ones that have resistance. And when that resistance is high, use the power of your mentors, your friends, and your colleagues to turn up the pressure and lower those barriers. And when you're feeling like you're stuck, or that you're not good enough, or that you're not deserving, or that you're not worthy to take on the challenges of our time, I want you to regroup. Remember that you have a family, a university, and a community that believes in you, and I want you to take those next steps. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
The President of the University.
Thank you, Dr. Bell, for that insightful and inspiring talk, as well as for your leadership during the pandemic. I think you deserve another round of applause. Before we confer degrees, I'd like to recognize the 76 students who have earned their baccalaureate degrees in 3 years. As a symbol of their achievement, these students are wearing orange stoles today. And will those of you who are graduating early please stand so we can give you a well-deserved round of applause. I'd also like to recognize the more than 575 students who are the first in their families to graduate this weekend. As a fellow first-generation student, I want to say how delighted I am for all of you and how much I admire your accomplishments. And I think you deserve one last round of applause, as well as applause for those who helped you reach this milestone. And a quick shout out to graduating student Maureen O'Shea, mother of 6. Mother of 6, friend of many, who today will become a double who, 33 years after she received her first degree from UVA. All of today's degree candidates are listed in the digital program, including those who completed the requirements for their degrees in December or last August. Today, we will award 1,707 baccalaureate degrees, 493 first professional degrees in law and medicine, 2,414 graduate degrees, including 2,200 master's degrees, 6 education specialist degrees, 180 PhDs, 13 EDDs, and 15 Doctor of Nursing practice degrees. The deans will now present the candidates for degrees. Under authority vested in the general faculty and delegated to me, I will then award the degrees. Immediately after these exercises, school and department graduation ceremonies will take place around the grounds, and the locations are listed in the finals program.
The Executive Vice President and Provost of the University.
Okay, this is it. The Dean of the School of Medicine.
The candidates for the degree of Doctor of Medicine, Doctor of Philosophy and Biomedical Sciences, Master of Public Health, or Master of Science will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honor to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree of Doctor of Medicine, Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Sciences, Master of Public Health, or Master of Science.
I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Medicine, Doctor of Philosophy in Biomedical Sciences, Master of Public Health, or Master of Science, with all of the rights and privileges thereunto belonging. And I charge you to use your training, knowledge, and research to advance clinical care, patient outcomes, health care, and policies affecting our communities. Congratulations.
The graduates of the School of Medicine will please be seated. Congratulations.
The Dean of the School of Law.
Lower the microphone. The candidates for the degree of Master of Laws or Juris Doctor will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honor to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree of Master of Laws or Juris Doctor.
I confer upon you the degree of Masters of Laws or Juris Doctor, with all the rights and privileges thereunto belonging. And I charge you to use your training and knowledge to preserve individual liberties, freedom, and justice. Congratulations.
The graduates of the School of Law will please be seated. Congratulations.
The Dean of the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences.
The candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Engineering and Applied Science, Master of Computer Science, Master of Engineering, Master of Materials Science and Engineering, Master of Science, or Bachelor of Science will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honor to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Engineering and Applied Science, Master of Computer Science, Master of Engineering, Master of Materials Science and Engineering, Master of Science, or Bachelor of Science.
I confer upon you the Doctor of Philosophy in Engineering and Applied Science, Master of Computer Science, Master of Engineering, Master of Materials Science and Engineering, Master of Science, or Bachelor of Science, with all the rights and privileges thereunto belonging. I charge you to pursue discoveries and inventions for the betterment of humankind, to work at the frontiers of applied knowledge, and to communicate the excitement of science to the next generation. Congratulations.
The graduates of the School of Engineering and Applied Science will please be seated. Congratulations.
The Associate Dean of the School of Education and Human Development.
The candidates for the degrees of Doctor of Philosophy in Education, Doctor of Education, Education Specialist, Master of Education, Master of Science, Master of Teaching, or Bachelor of Science in Education will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honor to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degrees of Doctor of Philosophy in Education, Doctor of Education, Education Specialist, Master of Education, Master of Science, Master of Teaching, or Bachelor of Science in Education.
I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Education, Doctor of Education, Education Specialist, Master of Education, Master of Science, Master of Teaching, or Bachelor of Science in Education, with all the rights and privileges thereunto belonging, and I charge you to be creative in facilitating learning and to use your knowledge, skills, and compassion to enrich the lives of the people whom you will serve. Congratulations.
The graduates of the School of Education and Human Development will please be seated. Congratulations.
The Dean of the Darden Graduate School of Business Administration.
The candidates for the degree of Master of Business Administration will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honor to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree of Master of Business Administration.
I confer upon you the degree of Master of Business Administration, with all the rights and privileges thereunto belonging, and charge you to promote innovation, equity, and ethical integrity in your leadership of the practical affairs of this nation and in the world. Congratulations.
The graduates of the Darden Graduate School of Business Administration will please be seated. Congrats, everyone.
The Dean of the School of Architecture.
The candidates for the degree of the Doctor of Philosophy in the Constructed Environment, Master of Architectural History, Master of Architecture, Master of Landscape Architecture, Master of Urban Environmental Planning, Bachelor of Architectural History, Bachelor of Science in Architecture, or Bachelor of Urban Environmental Planning will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honor to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree of the Doctor of Philosophy in the Constructed Environment, Master of Architectural History, Master of Architecture, Master of Landscape Architecture, Master of Urban Environmental Planning, Bachelor of Architectural History, Bachelor of Science in Architecture, or Bachelor of Urban Environmental Planning.
I know that the School of Architecture has a lot of degrees. I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the Constructed Environment, Master of Architectural History, Master of Architecture, Master of Landscape Architecture, Master of Urban and Environmental Planning, Bachelor of Architectural History, Bachelor of Science in Architecture, or Bachelor of Urban and Environmental Planning, with all the rights and privileges thereunto belonging. I charge you to encourage the prudent development and rigorous study of built human spaces through research, teaching, and design. Congratulations.
The graduates of the School of Architecture will please be seated. Congratulations.
The Dean of the School of Nursing.
The candidates for the degree of Doctor of Nursing Practice, Doctor of Philosophy in Nursing, Master of Science in Nursing, or Bachelor of Science in Nursing will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honor to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree of Doctor of Nursing Practice, Doctor of Philosophy in Nursing, Master of Science in Nursing, or Bachelor of Science in Nursing.
I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Nursing Practice, Doctor of Philosophy in Nursing, Master of Science in Nursing, or Bachelor of Science in Nursing, with all the rights and privileges thereunto belonging. I charge you to promote the health and well-being of the individuals, families, and communities you serve. Congratulations.
The graduates of the School of Nursing will please be seated. Congratulations.
The Dean of the McIntire School of Commerce.
The candidates for the degree of Master of Science or Bachelor of Science in Commerce will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honor to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree of Master of Science or Bachelor of Science in Commerce.
I confer upon you the degree of Master of Science or Bachelor of Science in Commerce, with all the rights and privileges thereunto belonging. And I encourage you to improve the world through your business knowledge and skills, and to help organizations create value and use their resources responsibly. Congratulations.
The graduates of the McIntire School of Commerce will please be seated, and congratulations.
The Dean of the School of Continuing and Professional Studies.
The candidates for the degree of Master of Public Safety, Bachelor of Interdisciplinary Studies, or Bachelor of Professional Studies in Health Science and Management will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honor to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree of Master of Public Safety, Bachelor of Interdisciplinary Studies, or Bachelor of Professional Studies in Health Sciences Management.
I confer upon you the degree of Master of Public Safety, Bachelor of Interdisciplinary Studies, or Bachelor of Professional Studies in Health Sciences Management, with all the rights and privileges thereunto belonging. I commend your commitment to lifelong learning, and I challenge you to continue in that spirit as you further your education, pursue your career, and strive to reach your goals. Congratulations.
The graduates of the School of Continuing Professional Studies will please be seated and shine your light out on the world.
The Associate Dean of the Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy.
The candidates for the degree of Master of Public Policy or Bachelor of Arts in Public Policy and Leadership will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honor to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree of Master of Public Policy or Bachelor of Arts in Public Policy and Leadership.
I confer upon you the degree of Master of Public Policy or Bachelor of Arts in Public Policy and Leadership, with all the rights and privileges thereunto belonging. And I charge you to use your new knowledge and skills to provide strong leadership in the communities you enter, to craft wise and ethical policies, and to serve our nation and the world. Congratulations.
The graduates of the Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy will please be seated. Congratulations.
The Dean of the School of Data Science.
Last but by no means least, the candidates for the degree of Master of Science in Data Science will please rise and remain standing. Mr. President, I have the honour to present these candidates who have fulfilled the requirements for the degree of Master of Science in Data Science.
I confer upon you the degree of Master of Science with all the rights and privileges thereunto belonging, and charge you to use your knowledge and skills to continue exploring, analyzing, and safeguarding data to ethically serve society. Congratulations.
The graduates of the School of Data Science will please be seated. Onwards.
That's all of them. Let's applaud them again.
The Chair of the University of Virginia Alumni Association Board of Managers.
Congratulations, class of 2022! It's an honor to be standing before you. My thanks to the Board of Visitors, President Ryan, and the entire UVA faculty for this invitation. I'm Tom Mangus, College of Life, Arts, and Sciences, 1990, a former RA, a Beta Theta Pi, and married to another UVA alumna. Now, I am the chair of the University of Virginia's Alumni Association Board of Managers. Let me officially welcome you to your alumni status. Since 1838, the UVA Alumni Association has nurtured bonds among who's at heart, and the university, connecting, informing, serving, celebrating, and investing in you and the university. Today, you will become part of the UVA alumni family for the rest of your lives, part of a vibrant, inclusive, and growing worldwide 250,000 alumni community that stands ready to help you remain engaged with the university in the years ahead. I invite you to explore now ways you can stay connected to UVA even as you are just preparing to leave, whether building new networks on Wahoo Connect, coming back to grounds for young alumni reunions or a home football game, or joining in-person and online one-to-one professional advising and networking events, no matter where life takes you. Over the years since I walked this same ground, I've had the opportunity to come back to UVA to recruit fourth years for the companies that I work for, make presentations to the McIntyre School and Economics Department based on my professional experiences, mentor undergrads, cheer our teams as we won national championships, provide mid-career professionals advice on next steps, raise money for the university, fund bicentennial and Blue Ridge scholarships, invest in university innovation through the Jefferson Trust, see one of my own children graduate, and of course, reconnect with old friends at reunions and elsewhere around the world. Finally, I have had the deep honor to work along many new friends at the Alumni Association's Board of Managers and its staff to truly strengthen the bond among alumni and between alumni and the university. I can tell you from my own experience, your connections to UVA will only grow and strengthen over time. If you give yourself permission, your enduring connectedness to this university can and will continue to enrich your life in ways you cannot imagine now and in the years to come. Congratulations, class of 2022. Thank you very much, and wahoo wah.
The President of the University.
Okay, we're almost there. I want to thank you, Mr. Mangus. UVA is really fortunate to have a strong and tight-knit community of alumni whose time on grounds profoundly shaped their lives. And I'm grateful that so many of those alumni have done so much to give others the same experience. Those of you who graduate today have benefited from the generosity of alumni, parents, and friends in ways large and small. And I want to thank all of you who have joined this tradition of paying it forward through your class gift. Before I offer a few closing remarks, I'd like to say a final thank you to our Grand Marshal, Professor Beth Meyer, as well as to all the speakers and performers today. They deserve a huge round of applause. So at this point, I am the only person keeping you from your school ceremonies, celebrating with family and friends, and/or finding air conditioning. Which is why I'd like to spend the next 30 minutes or so talking about 10 global challenges and how your time here has prepared you to meet them. I am kidding, although I do trust your time here has prepared you to meet those challenges. What I'd like to do instead is to leave you with one simple request, which is to remember what happened here. When I say that, I'm not talking just about remembering a specific class you took or an event that happened, although I do hope you remember those things. Instead, I'd like you to try to remember the feeling of being here, in this place, with these people, and carry it with you. Remember what it felt like to be surrounded by a diverse group of fellow students who were as compassionate as they were talented. Remember what it felt like to explore in ways you never had before and to learn from professors who loved a subject so much you couldn't help but get excited about it too. Remember what it felt like to build bridges, reaching out to get to know someone different and how it ended up changing you. Remember what it felt like to live in a community of trust. Remember how it felt to serve others and the satisfaction that came from devoting your time and energy to something bigger than yourself. Remember how it felt to be part of a community that faced a once-in-a-century pandemic and how together you helped each other through. Remember, because of this, that you can do genuinely hard things together. Remember what it felt like when the men's basketball team won the national championship. Remember what it felt like to walk the lawn for final exercises, and for some of you, what it felt like to streak the lawn. Remember, finally, what it felt like to live and learn with your friends, people who know you better than anyone. If you remember all of this, I have no doubt that you will carry the very best of this place with you as you face with courage and purpose the beautiful, joyous, challenging, sometimes tragic, but ever magical road ahead. And should that road ever lead you back to Charlottesville, and I hope it will, please know that we'll leave the lights on for you. Congratulations, class of 2022, and best of luck.
Due to the chance of thunderstorms this afternoon, all the school ceremonies have been moved inside out of an abundance of caution. Department ceremonies will begin after graduates and their guests have ample time to reach the ceremony sites. If your ceremony is scheduled to begin at 1 p.m. or sooner, I think that's in an hour, please proceed directly to that ceremony venue. And graduates, please stand for the singing of the good old song.
We have to break into two.